Hi, it's Penny Black and Jill Foster here for your next PB&J card class, and today I'll be using some of our new coordinating stamps and dies. So the stamp set is called Lush and Lavish, and it coordinates with the set of dies Autumn Jewels, and then I'll also be using the die cut sentiment from the set called Gratitude. And here's a look at the card we'll be creating. I really wanted to create something with a really natural feel to it, an autumn feel, and put some bright pops of color on the leaves against a more neutral, almost like the wood from the tree type of background. And using those die cut leaves with matching stamps, it's really easy to pop them up and get dimension on your card. So I'm going to start here with the T for Transparent set from Penny Black. I've already die cut the leaves, and these are an exact match die cut with this stamp. And I'm inking my stamp with Distress paints, and I started with the color of Fired Brick, and then I added Wild Honey, and then lastly I'm adding Salty Ocean. And I'm just going to stamp that right onto my die cut. Excuse my head there while I'm just peeking over to make sure I'm lined up. And then I'll remove, and you get this painted looking leaf because of the brushstroke stamp, and it's already cut out and ready to go for you. So I'm going to follow the same process and do a couple other of the leaf shapes. And I really love this set for fall, but I think it'll be a really nice set also for spring cards and everyday cards to pair the leaves with flowers. So using them as the leaves with die cut flowers or flowers that have been stamped and cut out. So I'm just stamping that again, and I use the same colors. So again, that was Fired Brick, Wild Honey, and Salty Ocean, and I'll have a complete list of all the supplies at the end of the video for you as well. Here's another shape. This time I put a little bit more Fired Brick on, went over the top then with the Wild Honey, and just a touch of the Salty Ocean at the top. And you'll see I'll go back sometimes with one of the original colors, like the Fired Brick, just to blend that transition from color to color. If there's any excess on the tip of the paint, I just color on scratch paper till it's gone. So now I'm going to take Ranger Archival ink, and this is in the color of Tree Branch, and I'm just adding that onto the leaves very lightly using the ink blending tool with the foam pad. And this just takes away that bright white area, but it still keeps the nice highlight because I'm just putting a very light layer on. And then next I'm going to take a darker color. This is Potting Soil, and I'm going to add this only around the edges of the leaves. So because this is going on kind of a busy background, I wanted to make sure to add this around the edges so that the leaves really popped when they were on the card. So now that that's done, I've just laid these out to get an idea for my placement, and this is on watercolor paper, and I'm coloring with distress markers onto the background. And again, those are just on there for placement so I can get an idea where I want the darker colors. And now I'm going to go back in. So that first color I used was Walnut Stain, and then I'm adding a mixture of old paper, Vintage Photo, Bundled Sage onto that background. And I'm just scribbling it on, and then we'll add water to blend. I find if I work on the smoother side of the watercolor paper that these blend a little bit easier as well. So I'm going to add lots and lots of water and just keep blending those together. Basically I scribbled the color on with the markers, and then I'm just scribbling the water on and letting it puddle and pool. That gives it that really watercolor, I think kind of vintage look. So you can let that dry, air dry. I'm impatient, so I'm just going to heat it up with my heat gun. And you'll see the great texture that you get as that dries. Now I wanted to go back and add even more color and texture, so I colored with my distress marker onto an acrylic block, and then I'm picking it up with my brush and some water and adding it onto the background. And that will get those really nice edges and different textures to the background because you're reactivating the marker that you already colored on, and then just adding in even more puddles and textures. So I did Vintage Photo first, and then here I'm just dropping in some Walnut Stain. Once that's dry, I wanted to darken it up even more, so I'm adding that ink on top, and this is mainly going in the areas where I'm going to place the leaves. So it's darker, and I'm just checking there to make sure for placement that I've added enough of the darker color. And you can see how that darker color really makes those leaves pop when they're layered onto the background. And then I just keep checking to make sure I have it applied where I would like it to be. So now I wanted to add some splatters, but I didn't want them to go all over the card, mostly just in the area where the leaves are. So I colored with the black soot distress marker on my acrylic block, mixed in some water, and I'm splattering it on the card, but you can see I kind of covered up that bottom right-hand corner with a piece of scratch paper. And now I just did a lighter color, so this is walnut stain, and splattered that over the entire background. Now I'm ready to work on my sentiment. I die cut this. This is the die cut set called Gratitude. I die cut it twice, and using a zig glue pen I colored onto the first one, and now I'm layering the second one on top. This just gives it a little bit more dimension when I add it to the card. Because I'm popping up the leaves, I also wanted that sentiment to have some dimension as well. And then I wanted this to not be bright white, but I didn't want it to get very dark either. So I'm using the Versamagic ink pad in the color of wheat, and I'm just tapping that onto the top. It gives it a really softer look than the white, but not getting it too dark where it would blend into the background. So I adhered my watercolor panel to the note card, and now I'm just adding my leaves, and they are popped up on foam squares. And then I will add my sentiment using that zig glue pen once I have the leaves exactly where I want them. So I'll just put the glue onto the background of that die cut sentiment, and then I will adhere it to the card. So here's a look at that finished card. You can see the dimension there and the fun colorful stamping you can get with the matching stamp set and coordinating dies. And again, here's another look at that card. Thank you so much for watching. For more details and information, visit the Penny Black website, www.pennyblackink.com. And here's a list of all the supplies used in creating this card.